I'm Maggie Beer. I was horrified to hear the recent Royal Commission findings, which revealed that 68% of Australians in residential aged care are either at risk of malnutrition or are malnourished.
This is how The Australian reported a shocking number today. 4 out of 10 people in nursing homes are malnourished. Not because they are not choosing to eat, but because of the food that in part is put in front of them. This is a disgrace.
And it's totally unacceptable in our society.
Over the next 4 months, I'm immersing myself in an aged care residence.
Can I sit here?
We'll revamp the menus and the entire dining experience.
Now, Maggie, it's not news that aged care providers have been getting it wrong and have been getting it wrong for decades.
Well, Ian, you are so right here.
What's truly groundbreaking is that any one of these homes would consider making some huge changes and doing it in public. First of all, acknowledging where they're getting it wrong, and secondly, committing to getting it right.
There are people doing it brilliantly, but we must celebrate those. But let's put those aside and think of the majority of those that need help. The fact that Meath was brave enough to come out, warts and all, as a baseline, as in episode 1, to see where the journey would take them was a gift. It was truly a wonderful thing for them to do.
Indeed. How many homes turned you down before you found the Dr. Mary Centre?
Well, there are those that didn't respond, so I guess that was turning down, and I didn't handle that part of it in the first instance. It was Artemis, but then we had to choose between 3 homes that wanted it. We chose Meath because Meath could see that it would give them such a boost in their standing if they could show that they could bring about change.
Maggie, seniors' homes are stacked with tragic ironies. The residents are no longer working and bringing an income, and it's not cheap to provide necessities like accommodation and food. Then you've got to add the cost of medicines and health care, which undoubtedly they'll need more than anyone else. Couple that with the rotten reality that there simply aren't enough places to go round, and someone has to die in order to make room for you. Who would want to buy into that sort of an industry? Maggie, you've been committed to working in this sector for over 10 years now. You launched your foundation 10 years ago. Why did you commit to working with this sector of the community? Did you have friends or family in aged care?
No friends or family in aged care, but it was the Senior Australian of the Year that happened in 2010.
A full and vibrant life has culminated in Maggie Beer being recognised as a culinary icon who champions the best of local produce.
It's hard to say when my interest in food and cooking happened because it was just part of my life.
I think that she is just a great model, irrespective of age, and I cannot see Maggie slowing down or giving up.
This is an amazing time of my life. Everything sort of this journey, and it's all come together, and it's wonderful. It really is. It gets better and better.
With the requests to talk about, in fact, to do a keynote speech to 1,000 CEOs of aged care, I accepted that along with many other requests that year. But to do that speech, I did a lot of research. And as soon as my eyes were opened, that yes, there were good, and then there was not acceptable and terrible, sort of three levels really. And to me, food makes all the difference in life. You're seeing me today feeling like the wreck of the Hesperus because I've been sick for weeks. But honestly, good food and the things that come around it, which are being part of a community and having a reason for being and being active, none of these things happen unless you have good food to give you well-being. And everyone deserves it. Everyone.
You've got a brilliant managerial side, which is usually behind the scenes. And I mean, you've built and maintained a business empire, which is proof that you understand people, leadership, teamwork, maintaining focus and energy. You know how to get people together, and that is just no easy thing. We get a glimpse of this side of you in the show, and it's extremely fascinating to watch you convince people to change their ways. How do you approach that?
Well, I think collectively, because this was not just me by any chance, if you bring people along and give them respect as well as skill to give them pride, everyone needs a path. You don't get anything by damning people. You don't grow that way. If you respect and give time to people and show them, give them the skills that'll make a difference to their lives, you're empowering them. And that's what you need to do.
And this is actually an example of reality TV that is essentially reality, and it's bringing real change to people's lives. Yes, it's a makeover show, but the difference is that people's lives are being affected. It really is real life. Yeah. And the joy on residents' faces just is wonderful to behold. Some of the reactions made me weep, as they did you. The moment when you asked, do you have purpose in life? And at that particular point, dear old soul said, well, no, my life's over.
Do you feel like you have purpose in your life?
No. Purpose? No, I've had my life, really, just about.
That's a dreadful thing to have to say. And you changed that in so many people's lives in this show. It was just great. Were you as happy as at the end of it as you were at the beginning?
Oh, look, there's no doubt. I wasn't able to do everything I wanted to do, but I started a journey. But seeing that fire come back into the bellies of the residents.
Do you think in the end it's going to be worth it?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay.
It'll be definitely worth it in the end.
One of the most beautiful things is seeing our residents being helpful. Do you like to do this?
Really have something to do, yes.
When I first met Thelma, I was concerned.
Do you feel like you have purpose in your life?
No.
To see her feeling useful, full of joy, it's wonderful. Do you like being busy?
All helps.
It helps everyone, doesn't it?
You're right.
Can I tell you, this gives me goosebumps. Seeing these residents so busy, so occupied, they're choosing because they want to be doing something.
To see their change, their smiles, their hugs, their delight in the changes everything was worth that very hard period of, well, it was 4 to 6 months, 4 months actual and lots behind the scenes. So yes, no, I was so happy.
How far along in your career were you when you suddenly realised and understood how food is served is just as important as to how it is made?
Look, it's been a belief all my life. I was lucky enough to be brought up in a household where food was of prime importance. And given that I'm 79 now, if you take back to those periods of the early 50s in Australia, food was very boring, meat and 3 veg for a long, long time, but not in my family. Food was always so important to do everything from scratch and make the most of every plant or animal. So that was the grounding. But then I realized as I've aged, even more so that this lifetime of good food, I mean, you're, as I said, you're seeing me post COVID, so it's not the best advertisement, but I have so much energy, I have so much commitment and drive because I've had a good food life. I've been connected and mentally stimulated, and so all of those things, it's been a progression all my life, but the base was as a child.
The doctors on call at aged care homes are rigorously trained and qualified. Likewise, the counsellors and the dietitians, the managers. Why do you think so many cooks are behind the 8 ball?
Well, there are many, many reasons. One, there is a perception that being a cook or chef in an aged care is the lowest rung of the profession. It is so wrong, and it can be one of the most rewarding ones. There is also such a shortage of cooks and chefs across the whole of the hospitality world of Australia, whether it's cafes, restaurants, whether it's hospitals or aged care. So there's a shortage of trained people. There's been no special, except for what the foundation has been doing and some bits here and there. There's been no specialized training or understanding of the complexity of aged care, having to look after so many different levels of dietary requirements. And so without training, without skill, it should never have been, but the essence is a lack of real belief by management that beautiful food is the most direct link to well-being of residents. It's that real belief that you give beautiful food, you give a better life. Food hasn't been important enough to enough people in Australia. It's not the first thing, like my holiday in Italy. Food is what everyone talks about. It's changing in Australia, but you know, we do have the Anglo-Saxon sort of overhang of food. Sorry, Brits, I don't really mean to denigrate you.
Now, your big mission is far from over. You've said the foundation wants to revamp menus and the entire dining experience in aged care homes. Well, but there are so many things against this actually happening. What, in your experience, would you be looking for in an institution that wants to jump on board and make some change?
All right. Leadership and communication and support for change. First of all, the leader has to not just say, but really believe. They have to bring in their management team and everyone in the home, so they know that they're all on the same, they all want the same thing. And that is so incredibly important. You know, most people don't like change. So the support of change management to give them the training that they need. Lack of training is huge, or the lack of training from really amazing trainers, which make all the difference in life. You have to support a change. You can't just say, okay, we're going to change and that's it. People need to be supported, to be empowered.
Maggie, as you said, you're 79. Congratulations. Is it because the residents are your peers that they're prepared to listen to you?
No. They see me as a young one. And really, in the beginning, I remember Merle saying, "You can't do anything here. This is an institution," as they all are. And I said to her, "Merle, you're wrong. We have to stop being an institution and be a home." They listened to me, and they listened to Elizabeth and Julie and Emma and Natalie and Josh Byrne. This was a collective. I mean, the most inspirational experts I had around me. and they could see what was happening. They could see the effort that was being put into this.
Look, as we all continue to live longer and better than our parents and our grandparents, one of the most important things, of course, is good food, but that's not restricted to aged care homes. It's something we all need. Norman Swan was saying that kids born today can expect to live well into their hundreds. But the trick is not to live longer, but to live better longer. And that's got to start with food, doesn't it?
It has to start with food and the understanding. For instance, let's look at protein. Protein is so important for the young and the old, right? Those two ends of the spectrum, but as building blocks all through the day, not just as a main meal. Now, that knowledge isn't out in the community. So there is knowledge that's to be shared at every age of how the difference that beautiful food that's full of goodness and pleasure side by side does for no matter the age.
Maggie, as you well know, the sheer number of cookbooks is just completely daunting. The number of cookbooks for seniors, on the other hand, you could barely count, with the fingers on one hand. And you've just updated and reissued Maggie's Recipe for Life, which we here at home use a lot. What surprising feedback did you get from the first edition that prompted you to do another one?
Let's go to the first edition. What was important was this was food to protect our brain from dementia, using Professor Ralph Martin's science and me doing the recipes around that science. And it was for every age. In doing the reissue, it was taking 13 of the recipes that I did at Meath to make a difference to the older person in terms of flavor and goodness, but make it accessible ingredients, inexpensive and easy to make. So I thought this was the addition for people who were looking after themselves at home or someone looking after a loved one at home, to celebrate how simple, beautiful food is. So the addendum was about piggybacking off the documentary, if you like, to say, I can make this food that I've made en masse for 129 people into the dishes that you can make at home easily and give you joy.
You were explaining in the documentary the importance of the buffet replacing the traditional serving out to the tables. And you said,
Yes.
with choice comes dignity. That's perhaps
Yes.
the overriding tone of this whole series, Maggie.
Yeah.
You treat everyone with dignity, even at the staff when they got things wrong, the staff when they got things right, the residents when they loved your food, and at first when some of them weren't quite so keen. You treated everyone.
Will you taste the porridge?
Yes, I will have porridge.
I made it just a little differently.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? Darlington, your porridge.
I hope you've given
The
me a small one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that okay?
This is horrible this morning.
Oh, you don't like it?
It's a bit tacky.
Ah, okay, that's my fault.
No.
No, yes, it is. If you don't like it, it's my fault.
Why?
Because I soaked the oats overnight.
No, it just tastes different.
You treated everyone with dignity. Restoring dignity is what it's more about, more than anything, don't you think?
Yes, I saw what giving choice and dignity to do for themselves did for the residents, that opened that fire that's still there in their very being. You saw them come back to life rather than just being passive. And it was the most beautiful thing.
Well, Maggie, I want to say thank you very much for encouraging my husband and I in cooking. We love your books, and we love the opportunities we've had to meet and talk with you over the years and to do these wonderful interviews. Dane is on holidays at the moment, and he wanted to be here to say a quick hi, but he's off doing what? He's cooking his mum a meal for the holidays, which I thought was just great. And before he walked out, he even made me a salad which is just terrific. It's all about food being a great expression of love, isn't it?
It is absolutely. It just goes so far. It really does. It changes. It gives importance to our lives.
Thank you so much for your time, Maggie. Really
Thank you, Ian. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Lovely to talk to you.
And you too, mate.
Bye.